Hey everybody, well here we are once again, and what we're going to do today is we're going to learn something new, and the something new that we're going to learn is Adobe Audition. Now Adobe Audition is just like all our other Adobe programs. It's one of the Adobe suite, if you will, programs, and there's many of them. And again, if you're subscribing to the Adobe Creative online and paying for it, then you are entitled to use all these different Adobe softwares. Now, one of them is Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is specifically used for audio editing. All right, so we find it right here on our tray, and we're going to go ahead and open it up. All right, so I've already opened it up just to make things go a little bit faster, and as you can see right here, we have as we open Adobe Audition, you might get this window that says Adobe Learn. Now, I'm going to teach you Adobe right here, but I can also tell you that these people are good at what they do. So there's some really great tutorials right here. If you want to get better using Adobe Audition, then please feel free to view any of these videos. But for now, you can go ahead and X out of this, and I'm gonna teach you Adobe the way I know. So I've been using Adobe for a long time. As you know, I have a background in audio editing, and most of the audio editing that I've done digitally, if you will, on computer, has been using this Adobe Audition. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this brand out of the way just so we can see the full screen of Adobe. Now, first thing we'll notice is, well, we're not really seeing very much of anything, right? The Adobe Audition app has opened up, and we have various things we're going to look at. So just like with Adobe Premiere Pro, there's an area where we're going to be working with files or events or assets or whatever you want to call it. But this is the area right here where you're going to see files when you finally import them. Okay, so we'll show you that in a second. The second thing I'll show you is that when you're looking at Adobe Audition, there's, just like with everything with Adobe, you've got various workspaces. And you can change to these various workspaces if you want, and depending on your application, you have a lot of different workspaces to use. So I'm going to be using the default workspace. I'll show you the radio production one real quick, which is kind of cool. It's actually fairly similar to the default workspace. The default workspace at times when it opens up will have a window right here. If you do see a window here, go ahead, and we're not going to use it this time. So go ahead and X out of it. I believe that is called so it was this Essential Sound workspace. I went ahead and took that out. Okay. All right. So much ado about nothing. I spent a lot of time not showing you anything, so I apologize for that. But we're going to go with a default layout for Adobe Audition. Okay, so let me give you a quick tour. Just like with everything in Adobe, it's all laid out pretty similarly. So the first thing you'll see is we've got obviously all our Windows menus up here, just like with everything that you do with Windows. And as we use these, I'll show you the important ones, or at least the beginner ones. And if you want to be better at it, you can obviously get more advanced. All right. So the first right here is the editor window. This is a window that you're going to use for editing sound clips. Okay. All right. And so there's two ways of looking at sound tracks, if you will. There's a waveform, and the waveform again is just an audio track. And then there's a multi-track. And the multi-track is the one that we're going to be using for this project. So with multi-track, what we're going to be doing is creating sessions. And I'll get back to that in 1 second. The next thing you'll see right here is this is basically our import window, if you will. Okay, our file window. And to import things, we're just going to do like when we used Premiere Pro. We'll double click in here, and all our files will appear in this window. Right here we have a media browser. If we're just looking to import things directly from our computer, we can go ahead and just import them from there. So it might be a little bit faster to work in. And then we have an effects rack. And just like with all of our Adobe applications, there are effects that you can add to your projects. We have different markers if we're going to be using that, and markers will kind of show us, different areas where things are happening. And then we have this project window. So we'll go ahead, or properties window, properties window. Okay, so we're going to see different properties of our audio tracks as we use them in Adobe Audition. Down here, you're going to see our transport buttons. Right now, they're all inactive except for the record button. And I'll show you that in 1 second. Down here also, you have a history window, and this is fairly helpful because if you mess up, you can always go back in your history and delete various events, if you will, various things that you did. It's like a mass undo. So you can just go back to all the way, 4 or 5 undos back and go ahead and delete at that point. When something went terribly wrong, you're like, how, what did I do to mess things up? And right here we have our audio levels. And this is, of course, a VU meter, and this is a digital VU meter. So that's a basic, just kind of a overview of the workspace. Let's go ahead and start working with files. The first thing we'll do, like I told you, is we have a record button right here. So this is a button that we're going to be clicking if we want to record. And when we use our voice, which we will do for our audio commercial, you're just going to go ahead and hit the record button, give it a name. So I'm going to just call this sample. And it's going to give you the sample rate, which is 48,000 hertz. It's going to be stereo, which means left-right channel, and it's a bit depth, which is of 32 bits. That's not really that important right now, but you're just going to click OK, and as soon as you click OK, it's going to start recording. As you can see, we can start recording our voice once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. Now, you can see that waveforms are forming as I speak. You can also see down here that we have our VU meter showing us our audio levels. So right now, these are pretty safe audio levels, and at some point, if we want to, we can go ahead and turn them up. I'm going to go ahead and press stop. I could even clap, which is a kind of a clapper, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and stop, and you can see that the first thing that happened is that our entire waveform got highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and play. As you can see, we can start recording our voice once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. Now, you can see that waveforms are forming as I speak. You can also see down here that we have our VU meter showing us our audio levels. So right now, these are pretty safe audio levels, and at some point, if we want to, we can go ahead and turn them up. I'm going to go ahead and press stop. I can even clap, which is kind of a clapper. Okay, so as you can see, this is a nice, representation of our voice. I went ahead and just clicked, and that unhighlighted everything. I could double click and re-highlight everything and delete. So I'll show you how to work that in 1 second. Up here, you're now going to see things have appeared. It's a full representation of this file from beginning to end. Okay, we can zoom in and out if we want to by just clicking and dragging this handle right here. Why would we want to zoom in? Well, it'll become a little bit more obvious later. If you zoom in and you just want to quickly zoom out to full view, just click this right here. It's going to zoom you back out to full view. So right now what we have is an audio file that we've created. We call it sample. We can right click here and we can rename it if we want to. Okay. But at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to, and this is a waveform. Okay. Now we're going to insert it into our multi-track. I'm going to right click, insert into multi-track, and create a new multi-track session. All right. Now the first thing you need to be aware of is that we use this term session. And a session is like a recording session. So when you get musicians and they sit down and they record music together, it's called a session. And so Adobe Audition has taken this term session and created kind of like a nice like working title, if you will, or working I guess title is a good name. It's not really a title, but if I click new multi-track session, it's going to ask me for the session name. All right, so right now I'm just going to call it tutorial. And again, the folder location, I'm going to send this to save in folder E, and I'm going to browse to make sure, like always, it goes into my jump drive. Now, as you know, I don't have a jump drive, but I do have an SD card where I like to save things. I'm going to create a new folder, and I already have a folder that's automatically been created called Audition Tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to here. I might have created it earlier. Hit select folder, okay? And now I'm not going to use any templates. There's different templates you can use for this session, but I'm not going to use any right now. Again, our sample rate is the same, a bit depth, and stereo. Now, stereo again means that it's left and right channels, and you can see right here we've got a left channel and a right channel. I'm going to click OK, and now it's going to take me to our session window. And here is our session window. Okay, so now it's gone into the multi-track view. If I go back to waveform, it's going to go to that waveform that I recorded of my voice. Multi-track, again, now we have all these tracks. All right, so this is a cool thing, right? What's going on right now? Well, this is the Adobe Audition session multi-track view. Now, the first thing you're going to see is by default, it always opens up with 4 tracks. All right, you can add as many as 99 different tracks if you want to. But for now, we're going to keep it simple with just 4 tracks. Obviously, professional musicians record on multiple tracks. And so this is a full track. Now, this is the track that we imported, not really imported, but we brought it in from, our waveform view. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and you're going to see how our recording will play. As you can see, we're going to start recording our voice once we make sure that we have our settings properly set. Okay, this is called the track header. Within the track header, you see the title of the track. Each track has a color that identifies it. If I drag this track down to my next track, you'll see that this is purple. This color doesn't mean anything, it just separates them so you can see them better. Here's yellow, or whatever color that is, I'm not sure. Kind of an aqua. So by default, it always goes into this first track, and the first track is always kind of this boring green. Okay, so we can change the track name just by double clicking, and I can change it to Mr. M. Mr. M. Vocal. Right, so this is just me, or you can call it voiceover. So let's go with voiceover. Let's run voiceover, and I'll just hit tab, and you can see right here. So if I have a lot of different instruments or a lot of different people talking or different things happening, I want to make sure that I identify everything with the proper name. Going back to this, the next one right here, that mutes it. And you can see when I muted this track, it's graded out. This one right here is solo. What we did is we can solo this track, so this is the only track we hear at this point in time. And this right here is the record button, and it doesn't record, it just arms the track for recording. And as I arm the track for recording, now I can see some audio levels. So I can set my audio levels at least so they're not too high. All right. When I hit play or record right here, it'll start recording. Unlike our waveform view, when we hit record, it started recording pretty much right away. This one gives us some time to not record. So if we're listening to some music and we have some headphones on, we can record over that music. I'll unarm the record track for now to show you some different things. This right here is our volume, okay, or our amplitude. And so what you can do right here is you can increase our amplitude or our volume. Right now it's set to 0. I'm going to click down my mouse and drag to the right, and you're going to see these waveforms will increase. Well, maybe not, but it will be louder. You can see right here that this moves as well, and it will get louder as I play it. So you can actually record in real time, and now you can see that our audio levels have gotten higher by default. As you can see, we're going to start recording our voice. once we make sure that we have our settings properly set. And you can see that I am turning down this volume, and those numbers represent decibels. You also see down here that we have our VU meter showing us our... Stop this right here, and as you can see, like I said, these are decibels. So we're turning down and turning up. And remember, of course, that our optimal decibel level is a reference level. It's just 0. So we're just going to type in 0 right here, and it's going to return us to our default view. Okay, and now I can turn just again. These stay lit if we've overmodulated. Remember, we talked about that term overmodulation. So now you see that we have overmodulation going on. This is our pan, left to right pan. Again, I'm just going to click my mouse and drag left to right. You see it's L, 6.4, and right. Again, these are, again, decibels, but we're seeing more one side or the other. So we're panning left and right. This is a cool thing to have. Let's say you want to have 2 speakers, but it's just maybe, you know, you have 2 speakers recording, and you want one speaker to appear to be on one side and the other speaker to appear to be on the other side. So when we have stereo, the speakers will kind of play a little stronger on one side than the other. So we can identify the speaker more towards the left. And when we record our second speaker, we can identify that speaker more to the right. It's kind of a cool little trick to play. There's some other stuff over here that we're not going to use that much this year in Adobe Audition. So that's the header, and these are the important things. Mute, solo, arm for recording, again, amplitude, volume, and pan, left-right pan. Stereo balance. They call it stereo balance, but we also use the term pan. You can also see right here that this is our tutorial session. And if we want to add some effects, we can add those right here. Okay? We're not going to play with effects right now. But we can if we wanted to, but we're not going to. There's actually some other effects that we'll put that are like default effects. So I guess this is a good time to talk about effects. Real quick, I want to show you a couple other things before I start talking about effects. If you want to expand things or zoom in and out, you can zoom in, again, make it bigger. You can zoom out. You can stretch it. You can unstretch it. You can return to its default state, all right? So now you've seen that by returning to a default state, we now have 6 or 7 tracks, and there's actually a master track down here. We're just going to go back to our 4-track view. It's the best view for now. And then these are for zooming in at the edit point, zooming out at the edit point. We probably won't be using these very much at all. Again, unless you want to be an Adobe Audition expert, we just focus on some very simple things. Okay, so let's go ahead and import. So this one we recorded is our voice, and we want to go ahead and import some music. Okay, well, let me do something. Before I do that, you see right here at the beginning of our voice, there's like a space, right? There's like, as you can see, so there's like a half a second, if you will, of, you know, dead space. So we want our voice to start right away as soon as we hit play. So I'm going to double click, and when I double click, it takes me right back to our waveform view. Okay, so you see we have this space right here, and what I can do is, and you can see my cursor right here, I'm going to go ahead and click this here and drag this over here and highlight that spot. And now I'm going to hit the delete button. And I'm going to go OK. All right. There's a reference to this. So this is actually a destructive edit that I just did. So this edit has now altered this file, and we can undo to return. And you can see right here, we've got our history. All right. So we can go back all the way to here. But for the most part, now if I go to my multi-track view, you will see that that space has also been deleted. As you can see, we're going to start recording our voice. Okay, so now we can go ahead and delete some of the end of here. Now you can see that we have this clap. So just like we did with in our waveform view when we deleted things, just like we did in Premiere Pro, we can now kind of move our cursor to the end right here, and we can scroll it all the way to this clapper, to the sound, and you'll see it snaps at that loud sound, and then just a little bit past that. You're going to need this for our next project. So you see that this ends right at the very end. Stop. I can even clap. And you can see right there, obviously our clap is not in view. Now, this is not our full file, but we've done a couple different types of edits. Let's go ahead and undo this. See this trim clip? All right, it's that last function that I did right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete, and it's gonna take me back to where I was before, because I can also use the razor blade, and I can just razor right here. Okay, and now I can select, and I have to do my selection tool again, click here, and now I can delete just by pushing delete. And again, my undo, my history is right here, so I can go all the way to razor and click delete, and it deletes everything after razor. So it goes back, you know, as many mistakes as you want to go back. So if you tend to make mistakes, well, that's a good thing to learn to do. Let's talk about effects. That's what I was going to talk about before. Okay, so there's different kinds of effects that you can add. There's favorites, which for the most part you can record your favorite, and but if you go to the effects panel right here, you can find these different types of effects. You can amplify. That means make something louder. You can mix some channels together. Actually, I'll tell you why, because it normalizes it has to be done in the waveform file. So I can double click, I can highlight, I can go to effects, and now when I go to amplitude, it's gotten normalized. And actually, you should do the effects in the waveform view. So I can go to normalize. Normalize means that it's going to make the highest waveform. It's going to basically make everything a little bit louder. The problem is that it's going to go to the highest waveform and put that kind of on the top. Well, if you see right here, we have a high waveform right here. So I'm not explaining this very well, but I'll double click. I'll go to effects, amplitude, hit normalize, and it's going to give us a normalize to 95%. That means that this very high one right here is actually going to go down to 95%. You saw it go down a little bit, but it's not touching the top. That means that everything else has gone a little bit softer. So let me do this. Let me delete this area right here. And now I'm going to normalize it to 95%. And now you will see that everything will actually be made louder. To 95%, apply. And now you'll see that our waveforms have been turned up. So if you're recording very softly or something that's too soft and you want to magnify or amplify the whole thing, you would use this normalize function. And now if I go back to my multi-track, you see that now everything's been also normalized and turned up. Okay, we have a warning here. So this is something that we'll go ahead and dismiss the warning. And we have our normalized track. Okay, so now everything's been kind of turned up. Now you see right here that we have a couple different tools that are important to work with. This one right here is the move tool. It'll allow us to move our file left and right. Obviously the razor tool, and there's some embedded tools as well. So razor just one clip or razor all the clips. And then this is our slip tool, and then here is our marker tool. You can't move with the marker tool. You can only highlight things with the marker tool. And you see that we put in some in and out points with this marker tool. We're not going to use this marker tool right now. So we're going to go back to the select tool. We'll double click. Oops, when we double click, it takes us back to waveform view. So let's add another effect. Let's add an echo effect. So I'm going to add an echo effect to just a part. You can add echo effect to the whole voice or just to a part. So we're going to add echo effect to this part right here. And all I have to do is just select it. And now I'm going to press play. Once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. And you see that since we selected this area, it's now stops. The sound or the cursor stops playing. It's just playing inside this area. And we can loop it, and it just keeps playing over and over again. Once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. Once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. Once we've made sure that we have our settings properly set. Okay, so let's add an echo effect. So now you can go to favorites and you'll see all these different effects are now available in our favorites in the waveform view. So we can fade out, which means that it'll decrease. You see right there, that's the fade out. And I'm just going to go ahead and Control Z just to undo that, which is a good effect to have at the end of every project. You'll want it to fade out, and that's how you would do it. Normalize, you would just normalize it 1 decibel down or 0.1 decibel down. Raise the pitch. And again, this involves something called stretching. So you can actually make things go fast, like they have in those commercials where the guy at the end of the commercial sounds like super fast. Now you can see that waveform. Once we make sure that we have our settings properly set. Now you can see that. So you can see that we've kind of got a little bit of that helium effect, right? Control Z. Gonna go back. Made sure that we have our settings properly set. All right. Let's go back to a couple. Remove vocals means that, right? We've removed vocals. Now you can see that waveform. Now you can see that waveforms are forming. That remove vocals is kind of a cool thing to have. It just removes vocals, but music might still stay in the background. It's kind of a cool effect. If you recorded, some music with vocals, let's say a song, and you don't want to use the vocals in that song, you just want to use the music, you can use that remove vocals effect. Telephone voice. That'll sound very 1950s. Once we made sure that we have our settings properly set. Okay. I'm Control Z just to undo these effects. And I can go to the main effects rack again. And in this case, we wanted to add an echo. There's different types of echoes, and you can, play with these settings and everything. You can go to any one of these presets. In this case, I'm just going to go to a default. Once we make sure that we have our settings properly set. Okay, so you see how we can add effects, and now when I go to my multi-track, that effect has been applied to the multi-track, because again, this is our file that we're working with. Okay, all right, so let's go back to the multi-track, and now what we're going to do is we're going to import. We're going to import a file. So you can double click here. We're going to import some music to put in the background. And again, you're just going to go to the music in your computer or your jump drive. And in this case, I'm just going to, I don't know if there's lyrics to that, but I'm going to, let's find something else. Music, B52s. And in this case, I'm just going to go with, I guess, Fun Place. Now we've imported this song, but nothing has happened, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and drag it into this. Click OK. It's converting, it's sampling the song. And when it's done sampling it, I'm going to double click it and show you the waveform. All right, so here is our, I'm going to double click and we're going to go to our waveform. And here's our song. This is obviously where the lyrics start, and we got some kind of music going on here. First thing you'll notice, obviously, is our music is very hot. So do we want to turn it down? Sure, let's go ahead and turn it down. All right, and in order to turn it down, we'll just go right here and turn it down. Now you can see that our waveform is decreasing. So now we won't have any overmodulation. So we turn on the waveform, but what's happened is that as we turn on this waveform, it's also created a copy. All right, because this is the original. We don't want to mess up our original, but we do want to create a copy. So it's automatically created a copy that we're not messing up. We're not messing up our original song that we paid for, right? So the copy is now what we are playing. I'm going to go back to my multi-track view, and you're going to see that this is this copy at 48,000 hertz. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click that, and now you should be able to see that we've got one track on top of the other, but it's going to be very loud. So this doesn't work, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to turn down the music so I can hear my voice. So I can turn up my voice. I started doing that first. And now I will turn this down as it plays.
Now, you can see that waveforms are forming as I speak. You can also see down here that we have our showing us our audio levels. So right now, these are pretty safe audio levels, but at some point, if you want to, you can go ahead and turn them up. I'm going to go ahead.
Okay, so I'm talking and she's singing, and it's confusing. You should never have music with lyrics playing under your voice. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to go back to our waveform view. And remember that we had kind of a voice reduction. So it kind of starts a little bit like this. This is not really a good way of doing this, but again, I can go to my effects once again. Amplitude and compression. And remember that we had, actually it was in favorites, and we had remove vocals, but it's going to turn the volume down. But you'll see that the vocals have been sort of removed from this song now. Isn't that cool? Okay, so again, back to my multi-track, and now this is like the edited thing with her vocals taken out.
Showing us our audio levels. So right now, these are pretty safe audio levels, and at some point, if we want to, we can go ahead and turn them up. I'm going to go ahead and press stop. I can even clap.
All right, let me just go ahead to my full view, and you'll see we have a lot of song. So just like we did with Adobe Premiere Pro, we'll take this all the way to here. And now we'll go ahead and again, fill our screen. I'm just clicking. And we're just gonna go ahead and scroll this back all the way to the end here. We have some extra vocals right here, don't know why. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and press stop. I can even clap.
All right, so this isn't quite finished. It's kind of pretty raw, but now here's how you finish this. You go to File, and now what you're going to do, obviously we're going to save. Make sure everything's being saved. One or more files is located outside of the session folder. Would you like to copy these media files to the session folder? No, I'm not going to do that. All right, 2 files is unsaved. I'm going to go with that. The session tutorial contains 2 files with unsaved changes. Would you like to save changes to sample? And this is this. This is the session. Yes to all. All right. And we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we've changed this up a little bit. And we've also changed, obviously, our music. And again, remember, this is a copy. This is a copy of our original song, so it won't mess anything up. Our original song, Funplex, is right here as an MP3. All right, so now that this is done, I'm going to go to File, and now I'm going to export. I'm going to export multi-track mix down, the entire session. And now it's going to ask me some options. How do I want to mix this down? Well, I want it to be an MP3 audio. There's lots of different audio files, but audio MP3 is the best. Okay, we can do it as a WAV PCM, but that's uncompressed, and you know uncompressed takes up a lot of space. The MP3 compression engine is a very good compression engine. We're also going to change the location and make sure that it's saving to where we want it to save. And we're going to call it, it'll give you that mixed down name by default. I'm just going to type in Murphy right here. I'm going to hit save. Okay. All right. Murphy tutorial, where it's saving to, MP3. Nothing else I need to work with. Click OK, and you'll notice that unlike Adobe Premiere Pro, this actually changes super fast. And so now, if I go to my folder view, and I go to here, Audition tutorial, and here is the MP3 file, Murphy tutorial, and I can open with, and I like to use Windows Media Player. And Windows Media Player will open up this audio file, and now it's just playing an audio file, just a single audio file. It's not a session anymore with multiple tracks on it. It's just a single audio file that I created using Adobe Audition.
As you can see, we can start recording our voice. I want you to make sure that we have our sections properly set. Now, you can see that waveforms are forming as I speak. You can also see down here that we have our meter showing us our audio levels. So right now, these are pretty safe audio levels, and at some point, if we want to, we can go ahead and turn them up. I'm going to go ahead and press stop. I can even clap. As you can see, we can start recording our voice.
So you see right there, we had our project worked out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. I mean, I'm not really super happy, but happy enough, right? Using Adobe Audition, and that's the project. That's not the project. That's just the tutorial. The next video, I will show you the project. But for now, this should get you going, at least to give you a view of how Adobe Audition works. And the next video will show you the project, which will be the Adobe Audition music.